Hello, everybody. The NFL's Championship Sunday is finally here. It is taking place tomorrow night, and I'm going to be coming up with my predictions for who's going to be making it to the Super Bowl. I don't think the slate we have is exactly the slate we expected of teams, but it's a really interesting one at that. We have a wonderful rematch between the Chiefs and Bills. Can the Bills finally overcome the hump of Mahomes and the Chiefs? And we have the Commanders and Eagles, a divisional rivalry, and they're 1-1 in the regular season. This is their rubber match, and the winner is going to the Super Bowl. This is two great games that should both be very exciting to watch, but I'm going to be here to give you my predictions on who I think is going to be winning. Now, one of the benefits for me personally about the playoffs is that my team, New Orleans, isn't in it anymore, so I don't need to really worry about who ends up winning as long as it's not a certain team that I know nobody likes. Either way, we're going to be starting with the game that is up first on the slate, which is the NFC Championship game between the Commanders and Eagles. This is an interesting one because you look at their first game, and it was the Eagles win, pretty normal. But their second game is very, I'm going to say it like this, Jaden Daniels coded in that don't do very well, finally decide to play well, end up winning game at the very, very end. And that's just how Jaden Daniels wins games. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that he is doing very well. And he is having statistically one of, if not the best rookie season for a quarterback ever. So I don't think you can count him out in this game or the Commanders as a whole. So one of the things that I personally wanted to look at was because I've heard from certain people how poor Saquon was in the second half of their last game against each other, and I looked, and in the second half of their last game, he had 25 yards, or right around 25 yards. And like 4 or 5 of those were negative plays, like -2, -3, etc. And that was really interesting because that means the Commanders' defense was able to stop him. His biggest run in the second half was 11 yards, and then he followed that up with, I think, -3. So I think the Commanders' defense knows how to stop Saquon. Now, I don't think they're going to do it originally. They're gonna allow him to be Saquon, but then he's gonna like slow down, and they're gonna wake up like, shoot, we need to stop him. So they finally decide, okay, we're gonna change our schemes. We're gonna go more blitzes, whatever, and end up figuring out how to stop him. And because of that, that means that the first half of the game is going to be pretty dominated by the Eagles. Now, I think the Commanders are probably going to be scoring up to that point, but realistically, halftime score of 21-14 or somewhere around that margin. Maybe 17-14 if the Eagles like have a weird drive. But Eagles will likely be winning at halftime because we know how Jaden Daniels plays. So we get into the third quarter. The Commanders will start off with the ball. The likelihood is that they're going to score a field goal to tie the game up. Tied at 17, and then once we reach the beginning of the fourth quarter, it's going to be like 27-20 in favor of Philadelphia. And they're going to score again. It's going to be 34-20. Then Jaden's going to do a quick drive. He's going to make it close, and it's going to be 34-27. The Eagles are going to get shut down on their next drive, and then Jaden Daniels will come back, tie the game, and then, okay, not tied. He's going to score the touchdown to be down by 1 point. And then Dan Quinn is going to do what Dan Campbell couldn't and successfully complete 2-point conversions because they did it against the Eagles the first time around. May as well do it this time. They hit the 2-point conversion, end up winning the game, and the Commanders will be in the Super Bowl. And before I elaborate a little bit further, this is very... I live in the DC area, so I'm kind of encouraged to say that, but I also support Philly. Like I have a Philly jersey in my closet as well as my Saints ones. So there is that, but I do still think that this is going to be a win for Washington. Then we move on to the AFC Championship game, which is going to be, I think, a little bit more interesting in my mind because you have the Chiefs who have been good, but they're not the Chiefs, and the Bills who have been good, but they're still the Bills. And the way I'm saying this is because the Chiefs have been good, but they haven't been like 2023 or 2022 Chiefs good. They've just been like okay. And That's been like a cause for debate about the team. Like, are they for real? Do they deserve this ring? Is there officiating help? And the reality of it is they're just not playing as well. Like, and that's to be expected. Kelsey's getting up there in age. They still don't have that great of a receiving core, even with DeAndre Hopkins. Their offensive line is like solid, but the ends aren't great. Their defense is pretty good, but their linebacker core could use some more strength. I'm gonna say there's some good talent all around, but even still, um, I do think that the Bills, on the other hand, are very similar to the Bills of the past couple of years. I think a lot of people expected this year to be the Bills' off year. Their window's closing. Josh Allen needs some more weapons. Just take this year, get a good draft pick, et cetera, et cetera. And now they find themselves in the AFC Championship game. And if they can pull off a win here, I think we can finally discuss Josh Allen as a modern GOAT. Now, he's not Mahomes, but he is at least in contention for like a top 5 quarterbacks of the modern era, if he isn't already. Because I think there's some guys who really they have the talent to be in the top 5 quarterback discussion, but they just purely have not gotten the playoff success or success in general. You see Justin Herbert. He's missed the playoffs like 3 of his 5 seasons, and then in his 2 playoff appearances, he's lost both of them, one of which being up 27-0 and still losing. So when it comes to things like that, I don't think that is Josh Allen, because I think he's better than that and he wins playoff games. But if he can make a Super Bowl with Buffalo, then that would be a whole nother thing altogether. So, how I think the game is going to go. This game is officiated by one of Mahomes' worst referee buddies. I'm going to say that because the guys who are running it are Cleet Blakeman, who refereed 1 Bills game in the regular season and 0 Chiefs game. There were 23 penalties in the Buffalo game, only 7 on Buffalo themselves. He mostly calls false starts, holding, roughness, PI, and defensive holding. And Mahomes has a 6-5 record in games officiated by Blakeman, his second worst against a specific ref. So for those who are arguing about officiating, this is probably the best showcase of that. If the Bills win, you know that there's gonna be a lot of talk about that. Either way, I think this is gonna be a hoss fight of a game. It's gonna be very back and forth. I think the Chiefs will have a good play early that is negated by something, by like a false start. It actually wouldn't be a false start, probably by like offensive pass interference, a push off, just something like that will get negated holding. And they're going to be like, oh man, that sucks. And then they're going to go 3 and out on that drive and going to be annoyed about it. And I think by halftime, the score is going to realistically be like 10-14 in favor of Buffalo. Nothing crazy. And then they'll finally start scoring again. So by the start of the 4th quarter, I'm thinking like 31-28 in favor of KC. And then Allen's going to score early. They're going to make it 31-35. Chiefs are going to get back 38-35. And then Allen and crew are going to hit a field goal. And then Mahomes and the Chiefs will try their like somehow magically win in the final seconds of a game, like the antithesis of Jaden Daniels, because he does it in fun ways. They do it in annoying ways. But it's going to be like someone said on Twitter how they can see it now. And the pass is intercepted by DeMar Hamlin. The Buffalo Bills are finally going back to the... hold on, Jim. We got a flag on the play. And the realistic thing is that's probably going to end up happening. But I do think it's going to be that the Buffalo defense finally stops the comebacks from KC. They're one of the only teams to beat them in the regular season. The other of which being a team they beat in this postseason. And yes, it was their backups, but still... So I do think we will see a Buffalo victory, 41-38. A very good game between the two, and Josh Allen versus Jaden Daniels in the Super Bowl. Either way, my Saints have a top 10 draft pick, so I'm happy as long as the Chiefs don't win. There we go. Make sure you have a good day, good evening, good night, good morning, good dawn, good dusk, good whatever. Make sure to watch any former or future videos on the channel. Have fun watching the Super Bowl, which I will be predicting eventually. And goodbye.